This is Veterans Impact Show, and we're here for you today. We've got a great program. And why? Because marriage management is so important today. So we've got him. Cedric,
Yes.
Let's take it away and go live now on Facebook. Go live now on Facebook. Welcome to the Veterans Impact Show, where our motto is Charlie Mike. Continue the mission. I'm your host, Jim Blythe, U.S. Navy Vietnam veteran and certified senior advisor. Join me as we feature veterans who continue the mission of leadership and commitment in our communities after serving our great nation. Why, you never know who you're going to meet or where we're going to go. So welcome aboard. Good morning and welcome aboard. This is Veterans Impact Show. I'm Jim Blythe, your host, and joining me, my co-host and great friend Cedric White and his beautiful wife, Michelle. It's all about the family. It's all about hope, health, and coming together and working together. So today I want to introduce Cedric to tell you about our guest. This is going to be a great opportunity. Cedric?
Well, thank you for joining us today. This is an exciting day because we have some dear friends. They've actually become family. The founders of Marriage Management, Bob and Barbara Zielinski. They're here with us today. We're talking about a program that these guys have been running for over 15 years. They are vets at helping family. Well, first of all, Bob is a vet. He's an Army vet, but they are veterans.
We won't hold that against him.
Right, we won't hold that against him. But they're veterans at helping and assisting and supporting families who struggle with the military life, with the veteran life. And we've been blessed because we've been able to become a part of that family and to assist all around the U.S. So I want to introduce Bob Zielinski, Barbara Zielinski, dear friends of ours, and just get an understanding. If you guys can tell us what made you begin, what made you start?
Thank you for
marriage
inviting
management.
us.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. And
Yeah,
thanks
good morning.
for the invitation. But you forgot to introduce that lovely lady that's with you right there.
Well, this lady needs no introduction, right? She's the one that makes me look good. My wife, Michelle White. She's my partner, cohort in crime, all of that, Michelle White.
And she is the one that got marriage management going
Yes,
for us, because
exactly.
Barbara and I were at a conference once, and Michelle was there and heard us introduced, and she raised her hand and said, "We got to talk to you. We want to help veterans. How can we do it?" So they were a big part of being the growth of marriage management. But it all started many years ago, 54 years ago.
Bob was in 1970, and we had just gotten married. So it was a shock to me, the military lifestyle, and it was a shock to me how much he changed as a person, that he wasn't the same person that I had married just a couple months ago. And I had this quiet despair. There was nowhere I could go for help. And when I finally went for counseling, his commanding officer knew the next day and called me a head case. So fast forward to 1980, we spent a year overseas doing marriage programs for the military troops in what was then West Germany. And I saw that quiet despair in every couple that we encountered. And that was where we realized that our marriage was normal. That what we were going through is what everyone else was going through. And that was just in our heart to do something about it, because at that point there really weren't any resources available for the couples.
Yeah, what Barbara didn't tell you was I had enlisted in the Army before we got married and was scheduled to leave 2 weeks after. So it was quite a shock. I left her.
That's kind of a bad honeymoon.
That was a bad
Well,
honeymoon.
and he moved me to New Jersey.
Oh.
And left me with no money, no job, no friends, no family.
Sound familiar? Anyone?
Say cope,
Yeah.
just cope. Yeah.
So I went basic training in Fort Dix in 1970. We were training for Vietnam at the time. And eventually I was sent to Fort Gordon, Georgia for the Signal Corps.
And I moved there to join him.
Yeah, she was able to join me. And it was a miserable time for us. Of course, basic training is a miserable time anyway. But what happened at the end of my AIT is I had an off-base accident, and that involved having to have my eyes checked because I needed to replace my glasses. And the Army doctor looked at me and said, "What are you doing in the Army?" Because when I had enlisted, of course, there was no physical. You went into a room, dropped your pants, raised your right hand, and got on the bus.
Wow.
So when they discovered I had bad eyes, they decided.
You were blind.
Yeah, I was blind. They were not going to send me to Vietnam. And that's what really hurt, because they sent my entire unit there, and I had to stay behind and push buttons. So I became an angry boy. You know, I was angry at God. I was angry at the Army. I was angry at my wife. I was angry at anything I could be angry at, because they were out there taking the bullets for me while I was sitting back here cushy. And that anger stayed with me. Even after I got my honorable discharge, I was still angry for years and years afterward, and I never knew why.
You know, it's kind of a life changes and things happen. But one of the things you made a point, and that happened to me, and I know it happened to you, Cedric, we changed when we went through boot camp. And that was the whole point of boot camp, was to change you. And for me, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. I was single and had no desire to be married whatsoever. But I could see, for those men who were married, the strain that even started right then and there. And, you know, in going through your material, one of the things I found is 80% of the military and veteran marriages fail. And of Vietnam veterans, get this one, of Vietnam veterans, the average is 3 failed marriages.
And you know, Jim, that hasn't changed. Barbara and I were at a resource event 2 weeks ago in Grand Prairie, and one of the Marines came up to us, a Marine veteran, and he said, "You know, I'm working on my 3rd marriage already, and I just kicked her out of the house." So it hasn't changed.
No, it's not. And
having come from a dysfunctional, broken family, I did not want my children to have to go through that. It was very important to me that we have a strong and loving household where people felt like they were accepted and they could be who they were. And so that has to start with working on the couple. You have to have a strong relationship
Healthy.
if you're going to build a strong family.
And to finally answer your question, how it all started, about a couple of years after I was separated, Barbara dragged me to a marriage event. You know, it was a weekend retreat. And wow, that really did change us. So I began to work on that. But the anger never left, but I started to develop skills. And then by 1980, we had advanced enough in this marriage enrichment. We've been doing marriage enrichment for over 50 years now.
wow.
And so that's when the University of Maryland appointed us to go over and work for the Chaplains Corps in Europe for a year. So that was my TDY. I finally got it.
Finally got it, right? You know, you made a point to me, though, earlier, and Cedric, you said this, that what you do is provide tools, not counseling. And I think it's got to be a combination of it. Now, you guys do this, and we went through it with you, Cedric.
Yes.
And that was amazing.
We enjoy what couples come out of the training with. Bob and Barbara have put together a great program, and they really do a great job of vetting the people that they allow to present that program to the veterans, because it's very important. We, as late as yesterday, had a group in here who had gone through a program this year, and they said they are still together. And the young lady said verbatim, I decided I would stay in this relationship because of the training that we got. And so we want to go to the next level. We finished the training that we do at the retreat with marriage management, and now they're coming to see us for premarital counseling. And so it shows that it's such a benefit. It opens doors, it opens eyes, it brings things to the surface that a lot of couples, they'll suppress, they'll ignore, or they'll just decide, you know what, the relationship's not worth it, the family's not worth it, we'll just throw it away and start another one.
Yeah.
And to pick up on what you said, Jim, That's why Barbara and I developed this program. It is not counseling, because you say to a vet, you need counseling. We can turn around and run the other way.
Right.
You know what I'm
Oh,
saying?
yeah.
So, but if we say, hey, we have a training class
Mhm.
that teaches you tools,
Right.
skills, just like you had in the military. You know, you went to a training class, you learned some skills, and then you were able to use those. When I went in the Army, I was one of the first ones to get that M16.
Hmm.
I looked at that thing and I said, "Oh, there's a little pop gun. I don't even know how to cock this thing." Because my daddy taught me. He was a Marine. He taught me how to fire a real rifle. Well, I didn't know how to use that thing, so I had to go into training. I had to take it apart, put it back together,
Right.
sleep with the thing, then fire a few dry rounds. If you're real good, you fire a live round, you can see what that thing can do, how
Mhm.
powerful it is.
Right.
And we treat the tools that we teach the same way. Like, you guys maybe have never had active listening or some other soft skills like that. You're taught hard skills. I say it, you do it,
Right.
and somebody's life's going to be saved.
Right.
So I come out of the Army and it was the same way. I said it, you do it. Yeah. You go to,
Right.
but
Read between the lines.
yeah, read between. So that's a different skill.
Mhm.
Having that chain of command and that way to react with your muscle memory works in the service. It
Right.
helps save you life in the
Right.
battlefield. And my God, that's the best training you can get. But you
But it
can't bring it in
doesn't
the
work
house.
in a relationship.
Yeah.
And that's where we came up with the idea of boots on, boots off.
Mhm.
That there had to be two different skill sets.
Right.
That you could not use the military. You could not use the military model in a relationship.
Right.
That it just simply didn't work, because you had to have two-way communication. You had to have joint decision making. You had to think about what was best for the relationship, not just what you wanted.
So we treat our program like boots on, boots off. Boots on, military way of doing one-way communication. I say it, you do it. Boots off, you come in back to your family, or you're discharged, or you come home for the day. You got to flip that switch and say, wait a
Got to
minute,
take the boots off.
I got to go into the other toolbox, the
Mhm.
boots off toolbox.
Right.
These are my original boots.
You know,
I
that,
keep those things to remind me.
that wouldn't have flown in the Navy because
No.
we had to have ours polished.
That's right. That's
Oh,
right.
I had to do that. I had to do that.
I'm sorry,
Well,
but
his were supposed.
I still wear those once in a while, because when I put those on, I feel in control. And that's the whole point. We try to control other people because we
Yeah.
have those boots on. So we have to learn to take the boots off and have a two-way communication where you're not always in control. And that can be scary to a veteran.
Well, you know, one of the big things that I have learned, and you guys we all come from a religious background. There's a huge difference between a contractual marriage
And a covenant.
and a commitment marriage.
Yeah.
And a
Yeah.
covenant marriage. And in the covenant marriage, if you don't know and you don't have the skills and you haven't had the training, you don't know what the covenant is.
Exactly.
How can you have a covenant marriage if you don't know what the covenant is?
Right.
In a contractual marriage, if you do this for me, I'll do that for you. Well, boy, let me tell you what. Having been in around real estate law all my life,
There's
a contract is built to basically have a fail.
Hmm.
A contract has got, okay, if you don't do this, it's all over.
Right.
And people don't understand that. So that's why I think this is so important. And we need to talk about why, though, this is important, not only to the military, but to our community and to our families. And I think first and foremost, if you're on an aircraft carrier, if you're into combat, if you're even in working, and you can't pay attention because all hell is breaking loose at
At
home,
home. Yes.
man, and you want to see suicide, wait till you see a guy get a Dear John letter from his wife
Yes.
when we're on an aircraft carrier halfway around the world.
Jim, I'll never forget my first cruise in the Mediterranean. Coming from my launcher, headed back aft, coming across the mess decks, there was this big guy, big first class guy. He was a cook. I'm talking big guy. He made me look small. This guy was big. And he was sitting on the mess deck. He was bawling like a baby. And come to find out, he had gotten just that, a Dear John letter. And it messed him up so bad. It was 2 days, but in 2 days' times, they had to get him off the ship. He was that, it had affected him that adversely. And quite often, unfortunately, the military isn't designed to pamper the marriage foster
relationships, yeah.
relationship. That's not what they're there for. And so things like what marriage management is doing for not just veterans, but for active military as well, is assisting them in how to cope with some things, how to prepare for some things, how to operate in a boots off mentality and know it's okay. You don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. I still use some of the military skills that I learned all the way back in boot camp. Right now, my wife might say otherwise because sometimes the bed isn't made. But when I make it,
all the time,
when I make the bed, right, I do it. I'm still by the hospital corners and all those kind of things. There are certain things that the military taught me that will never go away. However, I can't run my relationship that way.
Can you stand a quarter up in the middle of the bed?
It's not that tight. It's not that tight.
We had to do that.
Right.
This is important because it's the way a person thinks. What's in their head is what comes out.
Yes.
And it's kind of like yesterday I was flying with my son and I got distracted on something and I'm looking over here and man, here's the plane.
Mm-hmm.
Where your head looks,
That's
the plane will go.
Right.
And you know, that's something that if your head's not into it, if you're not going the right way and you don't have the tools,
You're dangerous.
Yes.
you're very dangerous.
Very.
And yesterday was not a good day for me. And I was not, I'll freely admit it. That's why I had a professional with me, my son. So again, we need these tools and we need to practice.
Yes. Yes.
You know?
And that's the important thing about marriage management. We not only teach the tool. In fact, we don't really teach. We share. Folks
Right.
like Cedric and Michelle, Barbara and I, our other veteran couple. They're all couples, by the way, veteran couples.
And they're all
years.
vets, right.
Right. We share a story, just like the stories you were sharing with us. And then we say, well, we screwed up, but here's a tool that works. You know, it's like starting my sentences with I instead of you. Just a little thing. But then
That
we
was
give
a hard one for me to learn.
Yeah, you. But then we give the couple a chance to practice in private.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so no one else can hear, and that's the important thing: the confidentiality.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think, again, this is so important. And I remember looking down on the dock when the Oriskany came back into San Francisco, and here was the wife of one of my very close friends down on the dock. And she went from wearing Daisy May and she was from Georgia to wearing like New York, wearing pillbox hat. The change on the outside was reflective of a huge change on the inside. And that other person had been left behind. And that was one of the most tragic reunions I have ever seen. So let's talk about how marriage management can help you. We'll be right back after these words. Welcome back to the Veterans Impact Show. And thanks to our sponsors, Fairway Independent Mortgage and Lone Star Wealth Strategies. Now, let's continue this great conversation. All right, welcome back. This is Jim Blythe. Cedric and Michelle White, my great partners. They have the most fantastic marriage counseling management, they're part of marriage management. And Diane and I have been through it. And let me tell you, it's the best thing that ever happened to me. I really appreciate it. But before we step a little bit further, there's a couple of announcements I need to make.
Sir.
First of all, I want to thank Fairway Independent Mortgage, my company, for being supportive of this and helping us pull this together. My NMLS number is 311548, and the corporate one is 2289. And we are an equal opportunity lender. And this is important to know because we also, as mortgage lenders, teach people financial literacy. We help them to understand. We help them to understand budgeting. We have special programs for veterans to help veterans with discounts. We have the American Warrior Initiative, which we have provided over 1 million service dogs. And next week, that's our program with Louise Thaxton, American Warrior Initiative. I also want to say a special thank you to Nathaniel and Diane, my wife, and Nathaniel, our engineer. Man, you guys do a great job, especially driving home late at night. We went to a great function last night for Air Power Foundation, the Patriots Roundup, and I got to tell you, you need to be plugged in your community, and there are great opportunities to do that as a family. We did that last night, and let me tell you, if you want to know something really great, go take a look at Air Power Foundation as well. Now, Cedric, let's talk about some of these tools specifically and tell some stories.
All right. So I want to bring Michelle into this because she is my cohort, and we've experienced a lot. We've seen a lot. We've been honored to go all over the country and deal with some of the couples and the retreats that marriage management provides. Michelle, I'd like for you to share some of the experiences that you've had with couples, some of the things that you've seen that we've seen in some of the trainings.
Well, a lot of times the couples come in a little bit reserved, but because we are there to help, we have truly a heart to help people and bring them. We tell our story first before we share anything as far as even the material and why we do what we do. That was the reason why when I met Bob and Barbara at the conference. It's like I wanted to help them, and I wanted to be able to. I knew that Cedric and I had a lot to offer as far as the veterans, because we both had failed marriages, and there were no resources at the time that I was looking for help in my first marriage. There was no resources at all. So when we're talking to these couples and when we have the opportunities to engage with them, we share our story and make them feel comfortable with the material that we're teaching, so that they are able to open up.
Right.
And they have these huddles and sometimes in the teachings when we do a segment, we do a teaching and they do their huddles and they come to us and ask more in-depth information because they're really wanting to get to the ground work with the relationship.
And one of the things that Bob said is very key to understand, and that is that the training and the retreat that we do on that weekend is not counseling.
Right.
And we've had people to get upset because they want to turn it into
a counseling
session. And we say, listen, there's follow-on assistance, but this is a training. We're trying to give you tools right now, right? We don't want to turn it into a personal counseling session. This isn't a group session. This is to give you tools, and they're very beneficial. Everything from communication, areas of finance. We even talk about sex. We talk about trust. We talk about all of those things because those are the issues that couples deal with on a day-to-day basis.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's one thing we add, and you mentioned it at the very beginning of the show, Jim, and that is commitment.
Yes.
That's one of the 5 tenets that we talk about.
Yes.
Okay.
So talking about the 5 tenets, right? It starts off, what's the first one?
No.
We
Right?
gotta know that
Rely.
person.
Rely,
Then
Okay.
commit.
Trust.
Right? Yeah, no trust, because trust is the one we tend to get stuck on a lot.
Yeah,
right?
we deal a lot with trust.
We get a lot with trust, and the reason for trust, the issues with trust, is because it's not always dealing with infidelity. It could be trust in money. It could be trust in you not drinking. It could be just trust in you keeping your word. So we spend a lot of time there knowing
Where were you
trust.
last night, Cedric?
Right, exactly. where you said you were going to be, and with who you said you were going to be with. Right, and we get all the way down to rely and commit and touch, and we go through all of those areas, and you'd be surprised how many things come to the surface and the lights come on, and it doesn't matter the age of the couples. We've had couples in their 70s, and when we were in Hawaii, we had a couple that were in their 80s, and they were still coming to get training, and we loved it.
You know, I got to tell you, too, that I've learned a lot about medical operations and medical procedures. There is almost no problem that you can get that you are totally cured of.
Right.
You have got to have a management program. You've got to come back and have that additional booster vaccination.
Right.
You know, and this is important because it brings us back. And it's not only important because if you're active duty military, or you're a pilot flying in an airline, or you're an accountant working in a job, or a mechanic, If your head's off someplace else, it ain't going to work.
Right.
But you know what? We think about the disaster that happens to, how it affects me. How it affects the children.
Yes.
How it affects the grandparents. How many times have you seen grandparents and aunts and uncles and families turn against each other, and some of the venom that comes out of their mouth,
Right,
and built up anger, they don't know how to deal with that anger.
right.
And these tools, to me, are so hugely important. It's a matter of life or death.
It really is for the family. Yeah.
Life or death for a family. All right, we're going to be taking a break in just a second, and we're going to hear from all of our partners who are really great about supporting us. I'd like to thank DBTV for putting us on Amazon Fire, Roku, and we've got another special announcement coming up soon. So go to DBTV. We're on 9 o'clock on Saturdays. What a great opportunity for us to be able to talk to you about saving that marriage, saving that family, and moving forward with marriage management and with Cedric and Michelle and Healing Thy Heart. We're all about healthy families. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Veterans Impact Show. And thanks to our sponsors, Fairway Independent Mortgage and Lone Star Wealth Strategies. Now, let's continue this great conversation. All right. Thank you for being with us today. Please share. Please go on to YouTube and share. We're building this audience. We want to go around the world, and we've got a great event coming up on September the 6th, right?
Yes, sir. September the 6th.
I tell you what, coming together, working with you has been like joy for me, because I've seriously learned so much, not only about my marriage, but what you guys do in these conferences. We're putting on a special conference.
Yes.
And we've got Dave Carey, POW from Vietnam, who wrote The Ways We Choose. Amazing what you choose. Bob, you're talking about, what do you have in training? What do you choose? Do you pick up the rifle and use it properly? Or do you pick up a hand grenade and have it blow up in your hand? I got to tell you, Dave's going to be here. He's an incredible worldwide speaker. And then we've got Bruce and Tony Hebel, and they do Forgiving Forward.
Yes.
And somebody would say, well, what does that got to do? Let me tell you something. You talk about anger.
Yes.
There's reasons you have anger.
Right.
Because you've been hurt. And if you can't get over it, if you can't forgive that person, then you can't forgive yourself.
Exactly.
Or deal with it.
And deal with it, right. And I think one of the most important analogies I've ever heard is being angry at somebody is like me drinking poison hoping they're going to die.
Right.
That doesn't work.
Well, I think what we wanted to do was provide a resource, a safe place that was not connected with the military, that was not going to impact your career,
Right.
where you could get the assistance you needed to build that relationship and overcome some of those corrosive influences that were making the relationship difficult.
And I think one of the most important things that I've also heard you guys talk about is premarital counseling, or getting if both of you are interested enough about learning before you get in, you're liable to find out some things that make you non-starters.
Right.
I mean,
Bob, can I say, Jim, I'm sorry. Can I say this? We're not moving enough. Sorry. Like, there we go. Sorry. We got to be a little bit more active in here.
It was my hand.
Let there be light.
We've
Thank
had
you.
people who attend the marriage management training. Some people come in as single because they want to learn. Maybe they've had failed relationships in the past, right? We've had couples that are coming in that are not married. They're looking to get married, premarital type couples that want to come through the training because they want to get it up front. And we love that people who have been divorced or whatever, but they see the benefit in doing this and getting it on the front end because they realize, you know what, you can't make this up as you go. It's just like in the military, we call it, you prepare for battle in a time of peace. You prepare for battle, right? You practice in a time of peace so that when problems arise, you're ready to go. You're ready to handle it.
And we give them that peaceful atmosphere
Exactly.
to do so.
And,
Oh, yeah.
and one of the things we have them do is create an anger agreement.
Mhm.
Like when I'm angry with you, how am I going to act?
Yes.
How am I going to keep this from escalating into a situation that's destructive to the relationship? How can we address the issue?
Right.
And
Right.
that's a military way. Like, okay, when I get into this situation, how am I going to behave?
Right.
What skill am I going to do? So that's the example of how what we do is a lot like the training you all are used to.
Right.
Okay. Now, if when you finish our course, which is just a single day usually, or maybe 3 evenings, you feel like, okay, we have a couple of really deep issues that we
Mhm.
couldn't bring out,
Right.
to share with everybody.
Right.
So I need to call someone else like Healing Thy Hearts who can give us a more of a one-on-one
Right.
perspective.
Yeah.
So
And-
that's how we work with other mental health institutions.
So we built a series of relationships with people all over the state and pretty much now all over the country.
Mhm.
We have more and more requests to go out of Texas.
Mhm.
The issue with that is our grant is from the Texas Veterans Commission. So that has to be done in Texas.
And
If
we
they
need-
want us to go anywhere else,
Mhm.
we have to raise private funds to do that.
And we need to do a shout out like you did for your sponsors. Our sponsors are the Texas Veterans Commission Fund for Veterans Assistance, who have been extremely generous with us for the last 13 years. So thank
Right.
you to them.
You know, Texas is fortunate to have that.
Right.
And one of my closest and dearest friends, actually the guy who helped me start this originally, Chuck Wright, is now one of the commissioners of the
Okay.
Texas Veterans Commission. And a couple of years ago, until it was sunsetted, I was on the Texas Veterans Commission Communication Advisory Board.
Mm.
And so people don't understand in other states why we've got so many veterans here and why things are so great. But Texas Veterans Commission is standing there for you. And if a veteran needs to get services after they've come out of the military, they have free county veteran
Yes.
service officers
Yes.
that are VA accredited reps and have the computers and have the knowledge and know how to do the paperwork and manage the system. That takes a lot of stress out right there.
Right. Right. Jim,
And that's in every county.
right. I want to circle back to the September 6th event that you mentioned a moment ago, because I don't want to gloss over that, because I think it's going to be important.
I think it is
Um,
too.
One of the things and the reason that we're all sitting here now is the heart of collaboration,
Right.
the heart of getting resources out to our veteran and our military community. And so we're going to have right here at the Hope Center in Plano, Healing Thy Hearts, and the Veterans Impact Show, we're putting together what we're calling a help, hope, and healing.
Mhm.
Did I get it right? I got it right. Hold it, hope and healing seminar on that day, and we're bringing in resources from all over. We're inviting veterans and military personnel to come in because we want to continue and let them know. Listen, this isn't just a radio show. This isn't just a small time that we spend together. No, we live this. We do this on a daily basis, and we are trying to build a larger collaborative community to where we can serve our veteran and our military community.
Cedric, there's so many organizations that get out there and they talk about, we want to stop veteran suicide. We want to do this.
Right.
We want to do that. We do too, but we feel like going to the core issues of the family
Exactly.
is probably the first place we've really got to go.
Yes.
And in doing that, then finding healing and ways to get your head right.
Right.
Once you got your head right, then all of a sudden you can see.
Right.
If you ever flown a plane, you're not a pilot. Neither one of you guys are pilot. I'm a pilot. I'm an instrument rated pilot. Let me tell you something. You have to do a lot of training to do instrument flighting.
Right.
And the first time you're in an actual instrument situation is very intimidating.
Mhm.
But if you've got all the training, you just do it by the numbers
Right.
and you're going to be okay. I think that's one of the things that we want to do is provide all of these levels,
Right.
all of these things so that you choose the right thing,
Right.
so that you can forgive. Even if you're divorced, you can forgive.
Right.
I have one of the greatest ex-wives in the world who's a close friend, and I'm so thankful for Kay.
Mm-hmm.
And man, she's welcome in our house any day. And that is the way you've got to be, or you're tearing up the family.
Well, you've said it, and I've actually I've stolen it, Jim. You make a statement. Keep flying the plane.
Yeah.
To
Never
have
quit
that
flying
mindset,
the plane.
never quit flying the plane, right? And so when it comes to relationships, again, we're trying to change the mentality from it's so simple now to get out of a relationship, to get out of a divorce, to leave the family. It's easy to do that. But you know what? If both people, both adults in the relationship would make the commitment, any relationship can be repaired and made better. It's what we know, but it takes work to do that.
And a chaplain once told me, he was an airborne ranger, by the way. He said, you got to be careful of parachute marriages. That's when you go into marriage with a reserve chute. So if anything goes wrong, like you were saying before,
bail out.
you just deploy the chute, you bail out.
Right.
Well, we want to avoid that. We want to put that commitment back into it. And you mentioned suicides really quick. I want to say that's huge.
Why
Because
we are suicide prevention.
we are a suicide prevention agency as
Yes.
well because, and please listen to this, 30% of military suicides happen within 1 month after a divorce or the breakup of an intimate
Wow.
relationship.
Oh,
30%.
I am well aware of that. I've actually seen it when I was in the Navy on deployment. And I think, though, guys, correct me if I think I'm wrong, but I think it goes back to the basic fundamentals that we talked about. And if you don't have that commitment, if you don't have that covenant, if you don't understand, in other words, if I tried to do a contract with somebody who is Ethiopian and I don't speak or write Ethiopian,
Right.
how's that we're going to work?
Exactly.
You know, now that's an extreme example, but that's what we see happening all the day.
Right. Well, Jim, we even talk about love languages in the training that we do, right? Because a lot of people don't understand. Quite often, I want to give the things that I like being given, right? I want to do for you what I like being done to me, and that's not what you need. I need to know your love language. I need to know your triggers, right? All of those things, and you need to know mine. And then we need to understand, okay, how do you manage that? What tool do I have that I can manage that? We had a young man, again, who came through the training. Then they came here, he and his wife at the time. And he said his issue was that he was taught to be, I'll use a cleaner term. He was taught to be a butthole, remember? And he said that's what he was going to do. He was that way with his wife. He was that way with his children. He was that way with everyone. And so we had to go back and refer back to the very first slide that we showed. And that is boots on, boots off. And it's okay. It does not make you soft. It does not make you a weakling. It does not make you less of a man. As a matter of fact, it makes you more of a man when I can show you love, when I can control myself. I don't have to operate in anger. I don't have to go out and get drunk and then come home and fight you. I can have control of my faculties. And I've learned to do that, again, taking the tools and utilizing the tools that I've been given.
Now, in talking about that, let me interrupt everybody. I want to make a special thing. Go to marriagemanagement.org. That's marriagemanagement.org or call 682-730-1818. That's 682-730-1818. Let me tell you something. They have a wonderful schedule in San Antonio, Fort Cavazos, the JRB in Fort Worth, San Antonio, Killeen, Addison, Dallas,
El Paso,
one of my favorite cities. Let me tell you something. Oh man, there's some great places to eat down there. We're going to be there in a couple of weeks, actually, a few weeks. So I got to tell you, go check it out. Marriagemanagement.org and healingthinehearts.org. And then take a look at all of this because we are available to you on Veterans Impact Show. And we're getting a new website for that as well.
That's right.
And I'm excited about that. So this is a commercial this is where you're going to get the training.
And it's free.
And it's free. And we feed you.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you guys did.
Yeah.
free lunch. Come on.
And it was great. You know, it was
Right.
Italian food.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, I have Italian in my background.
Me too. I have Italian in my closet.
But
Wait
do
a minute,
we have
Zielinski?
Well,
that ain't Italian.
But my mama was a Betoni, Povera Gesù Benedetto. But if we have a couple of seconds, Jim, you and Diane were on the program. Can you tell us something that it helped personally, that it helped you in your marriage? Well, one instance that you discovered that made a difference.
I don't know. I think it improved our ability to communicate because we were focusing on that and seeing these other people around and interacting with them. I just think being there, and I know this sounds crazy, but just being there and being a part of that did more good for me and for us than anything else. Now, let me give you, can I give you,
It wasn't because of our teaching, Jim.
it's always because
It's the atmosphere.
Yeah.
that's it. Thank you, Barbara.
Exactly what you're saying, Barbara. The couple we just recently met with, they said we stayed together. We decided, the young lady said, I decided that I wanted to keep going in this relationship because in that crowd, I saw we weren't crazy. We weren't
weren't the only ones.
Right. We weren't the only ones having problems. It exemplifies that everybody's dealing with this, but most importantly, there are tools to help you deal with it. That was
and I got a couple of quotes from actual people.
Yeah, please, Bob, tell us.
And one of them said, this program has been marriage saving. I did not have an interest in my husband of 18 years and wanted to divorce. And I learned how to fall back in love with him. Another one said, without this program, we'd be stuck, not moving forward. And another one said, if this program didn't exist, we'd be brittle. Military marriage is difficult, and this class helped us get the tools to repair and work on things to recover.
That happens in a day.
That happens
in a day.
Guys, military marriages are difficult, but marriage is difficult.
Yes.
If you choose to make it. And if you ain't got the right tools, like flying an airplane,
it's going to be difficult.
It's going to get bad.
I want to say something. We go to school for everything, but we don't go to school to have know how to have a successful relationship. Our perspective on relationships are based on what we have seen and how we were raised, whether it's healthy, imbalanced, whatever that case may be. So these type of classes, this type of workshop helps them to understand. It's everybody in the room and says, wow, we're not the only ones messing up. There are other people going through the same thing like we are. Right. And like we have been saying all morning is that military families have a little bit even more restrained on their relationship. And these tools and these classes that we offer are truly an impact in changing the family dynamics.
Yeah, that's why we appreciate being on the Veterans Impact Show.
Hallelujah. Well, let me tell you something. There's an old saying, opposites attract, and then they try and kill each other.
Right.
I think one of the amazing things when we couldn't come back, I want to talk about just for a second the story of Diane and I's wonderful marriage and how we met. And how some important things that in background, in understanding, in communication can make all the difference in the world.
Yes.
And it's not just a marriage. Let me tell you something. I've been business partners with people. I've had business relationships that I did not know what I was getting into. And that too is a communication thing. So I want to make a point when we come back. It's not just about marriage. It's how you communicate and relate to other people. You can either be Corinthians 13, patience and kind and all of these things. So we're going to be back in just a second with more about how to save your life and how to save your family. This is Veterans Impact Show. We're here for you. Welcome back to the Veterans Impact Show. And thanks to our sponsors, Fairway Independent Mortgage and Lone Star Wealth Strategies. Now, let's continue this great conversation.
All right. Well, we thank you for coming back with us. We want to thank you, first of all, our partner, our sponsor, Jim Blythe. Thank you for Diane Blythe being behind the scenes, and Mr. Nathaniel being here running things for us. We also want you to go out and follow us on Facebook. We want you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and look for us on the internet on DBTV, Amazon Fire, and Roku. So again, we're here with Jim, my beautiful wife, Michelle, Bob, and Barbara Zielinski, and we're talking about the marriage management and what they offer. Bob, Barbara, tell us about the missions that we have in the show. We've got to keep moving. We have to move more.
Let there be light.
I love it. We probably look pretty weird. Somebody stand up and move around. I don't know where that sensor is.
Go ahead and ask that question again.
Okay,
You'd like to know?
I'd like to know about when we have the breaks. We call them huddles. We call them missions. The importance of couples being able to, when we're in the training, it's not just a monologue. You're not just sitting there being lectured. This is an active training. Tell us about the missions or the huddles.
It's a shared wisdom, and everyone has a different way of managing their own marriage. And we're not going to tell you how, but we're going to give you tools to make it healthier. So the huddle, like you mentioned before, isn't like a football huddle where you got everybody at the table talking. It's just a dialogue between the two of you.
Yes.
So it's private.
It's private. So
you don't have to share your business.
And we give you a chance to prepare for that. We'll say, okay, here's a question we're going to ask you. Like, I'll ask the question of this audience. What did apologies look like in your family when you were growing up? So you think about that, and most likely you end up with a blank piece of paper saying, I didn't see no apologies.
Right.
But then we say, all right, now after you've answered this question, you turn around and talk to your spouse privately like this and say, well, this is what it was like in my family. What was it like in yours? And you get a chance to learn something new about that person. And that's life-changing there.
I can tell you the stories from the very first huddle that we have. And the very first one is we ask them to tell your mate something special. Tell them how much you appreciate them, right? And why. And quite often you can tell people come back in the room, their face is red, their eyes are red. Because they've been crying.
Because they've never heard it before.
They haven't heard that since they dated, or maybe even ever. They've never taken the time to say, this is what I appreciate about you. This is why I appreciate it.
And you can do it in private.
You're not doing it in front of everyone. But the great thing is you have that opportunity and you're opening things up. People leave there and a lot of things that have been suppressed, a lot of desires that they've had from their mate, they're experiencing things. And we tell them we always tell them our heart is to stimulate your thinking and stimulate your heart so that you are going to be talking to each other far beyond this day.
What do you appreciate about each other?
Right. What do we?
Don't tell us.
Well, can I just say this before I forget? Because the one thing that I know when we do that first exercise, that first huddle, it's like healing immediately starts. So from that point, because they don't understand that's the easiest huddle that they're going to get that day.
Oh, you just blew it. Come anyway.
Okay, guys,
It's just like in the service, you crawl first, and then you walk, and then you run.
Okay,
Guys,
but we also do group exercises, which are more like brainstorming. We encourage the couples to contribute, ask questions, share. So it's a very interactive kind of day. It's not a static situation.
So please finish.
I think this is so tremendously important. And again, I want to come back to find out more about this by going to marriagemanagement.org or calling them at 682-730-1818. Diane's posting that, and some of you may not see our posts. So this is important to get your act together, to be able to learn, to be able to fly with life. Attitude is altitude. You got the right attitude, you're going to have the right altitude. You got the wrong attitude, you're going to crash. And I got a story about that you don't even want to hear. I think one of the other things, though, that I'm going to disagree with you guys a little bit. You could say we do it in private. Yes, you do that in private to basically say, Diane, how much I really appreciate it. But I also appreciate it when couples say that to each other in front of the family.
Mhm.
When couples say that in group settings and let people know, when you are in a group situation or a family situation and they know you really care about your spouse, because Diane, you made a fabulous dessert. You did something great.
Yes.
You helped us out with this. And when you hear that, you talked a while ago about, well, what did my family of origin do? How did they handle apology? We never saw them do it. Wow. I want my family to know that I compliment Diane all the time.
Yes.
And I think that's important too.
And we do have an opportunity to share, and we encourage that, and we have the safer atmosphere to do so.
Right.
It is shared wisdom.
Mhm.
We're with all of our buddies. We're not the repositories of all knowledge
Right.
about marriage. Everyone that comes there has some tricks of the trade, and we encourage you to share because we all learn from each other.
Right. Right.
That-
It's I think the one thing that I really appreciated and that I learned that it was most important was the peer aspect.
Mhm.
And right.
Oh,
And
without
so
a doubt.
we're all military, we're all peers, we all have a key understanding. This isn't just some egghead that went and read a book and wanted to help. I mean, I'm just saying this is somebody who actually they've experienced it and they understand and have gone through some things, and it makes a huge difference.
And that's why it's military and veterans only.
Yeah.
Because we have that different perspective.
right, right.
We know what the life has been like.
Well, guys, I got to tell you, this has been a great day.
Yes, sir.
Great opportunity. Bob and Barbara, thank you. Zielinski, thank you so much. Marriagemanagement.org. Cedric, man, you put us a great one together today.
Healing Nine Hearts.
I like to close with a prayer, and I say, Lord God of the universe, we are so eternally grateful for people like Bob and Barbara, Cedric and Michelle, who go a step further, helping us to have tools to go into the night and be able to make everything right. Dear God, we thank you for our active duty military and your hedge of protection around them. Keep your hand on them, guide them, direct them, and keep them safe. And our first responders, thank you for what you're doing to protect them, those that run into the fire and sit away from it. Thank you, God, for bringing us together, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.